Let's go. I got set myself. Just push through damage.
Yeah. I got a rock. He vanished.
That right there in the water, sapped, is me. And rushing towards me is Velati, a multi-Hero Alliance player that has played WoW for 2 decades and that I had the pleasure to face against multiple times.
He vanished again. He vanished.
I sat down with him for about 3 hours and had a chat about everything to do with RBGs. I hope you'll find this content as interesting as I found it. Don't hesitate to hit that subscribe, like, and leave a comment if you want to see more sit-downs with high-rated RPG players. Thanks and enjoy. Thank you, Velati, for joining the first, I don't know what to call this really yet. I don't really have a name for it, but it'd be like more of like a Joe Rogan type sit down, talk for an hour about everything and anything to do with rated battlegrounds. Yeah. I'm really curious to know like how you actually got into World of Warcraft.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. When I was younger, I was in middle school, and when I was a lot younger, obviously I played all the different kinds of games, but my first MMO that I played was actually a Disney game called Toontown. And it's a fun little kids game, you know, you get into like these little brawls. The thing that I liked is that it was an MMORPG. So you progress your character, you level up, and you keep clearing content that you couldn't have cleared before because you're progressing, right? That's how these progressive RPGs work. And that's where I realized I grew my love for that progression. However, I forget what happened, but I think I almost like beat the game. I hit like the max point where you're just sort of repeating, but you can't really progress anymore. So I got really bored of it, and I tried the alt thing, but the game is literally on it. There is no like different alt. You kind of just gather everything. So I was in middle school, and my teacher was talking about World of Warcraft and how his daughter played it like all the time, and I kept hearing rumors about it. So anyway, let's cut to the chase, I guess, a bit faster. He pretty much sold it on me in that moment, a little bit, and then when the summer came, I was bored, and I said, you know what, let me check out this website, World of Warcraft. So I checked it out, and it was kind of from there, you know.
I told you, yeah.
That was it.
I mean, for me, it was somewhat similar in a sense. I hadn't never played like any online games at the time. I was just kind of like screwing around with like, you know, Skyrim, or it was actually Oblivion back in the day, and trying out like, you know, other games. Like, you know, I was playing a lot of console games. I wasn't really a PC gamer, and it was only when I went on vacation in Europe for like a month. I had a friend that was actually playing WoW, and he actually let me play his account for the duration of my vacation, and that's how I actually got into it. But yeah, I think, and I got hooked, and I asked my parents, hey, could you know, get the game for me? And they were like, no, because they read online it was a very addictive game. I had to beg them for a year to actually get me to play. And they finally bought it for me for Christmas, but or for my birthday at the time. But yeah, I was quite young. I was like 13, I think, 13 or 14. I think you were probably the same age, which is quite funny that we're all started at that back then, and now we're still playing it today. What was your first class? What did you first play?
Very, very first character was a Tauren warrior, and I actually lost the character because apparently it was on a different server, and I didn't know that servers were even a thing. So when I logged back in, it recommended me to a different server, and I had to start again. So from there, I'm the kind of person where I tasted everything, and I kept getting things level 10, level 20, and then re-rolling because I like to experience it all before I lock in. Because when I lock in, it's like straight through. I don't stop though. I ended up choosing a Warlock actually. That was what I ended up hitting max with, and it took me a while to learn as well because I never played a game with like health points like this and mana bar. Like I had mana as ammunition for spells essentially, right? I only played gun game or FPS. So yeah, what about you?
Yeah, for me, when I was playing on the account that was shared, I actually, my first character I ever made, I think it was in 2004, was a Night Elf Mage, or at least I thought it was a Night Elf Mage, but actually it was a priest, and I didn't know because the game was very complicated, and every time I died in the game, you know, when you were in Teledristle and you died, you would have to run back to your body. at one point I realized, what's the point running back to body? There's like a spirit reser there. You just click and it just automatically registers. I'm like, what's the point? You have no need. And the thing is, I never realized is I eventually got resurrection sickness. My gear was all broken, and yeah, I just kept dying more. It was the biggest new moment ever. But actually, when I bought the game, when I actually got the game later on, I actually played a hunter to level 35, and then I rerolled to paladin, which I actually maxed out. But it took me forever because I was playing holy with ret gear, and it literally took me almost by the end, because I started in 2005, just so you know. It took me to like the Burning Crusade to actually ever even hit max level. And I was just more focused on just, you know, the open world and exploring. I didn't even know about raiding or dungeon. Well, I did know about dungeons, but I didn't know about raiding or any of the end game content that was available. So, but it was a lot of fun. And where did Velati come from? Did you name it originally? Your original first character Velati, or not?
No, we had many iterations. I used to do like combination of names. So my Warlock's name I think was like Moneyman. That was when I listened to rap. Yeah, that's when I used to listen to rap. You know, Lil Wayne and Birdman and all that back then. So they always used to talk about money and all that. I got all motivated to name my character Moneyman. And then we took a different route, don't ask. I eventually called it Dazzling Demon. Because it was a Warlock, right? And I changed it to female. Went Dazzling Demon, tried to get like the roleplay aspect a little bit. And then I always wanted to just dive into the whole fantasy name. I like that a lot better. And so came up with Velati.
Nice. I think the name stands out. You know, it's easy to pronounce. So I think it's a quite good name. But this came when you chose Velati when you came back to Classic, or was it like during the original?
No, that was in original Kata actually. I had a bank alt priest called Velati.
Oh, okay.
And I never planned to play it. And then randomly I said, let me just level and see how it is. And then
does it have any deeper meaning, or is it just a random name you picked up?
No, not really. I think it took a little bit more of an Italian perspective because I grew up in like an Italian themed household, let's say.
Oh, I see.
And yeah, pretty much that's it.
Okay. And so, when did you get into PvP? And this could be could be world PvP. It doesn't necessarily have to be arena or RBGs. I'm more interested when you actually, you know, started.
From the moment I hit max level, because I didn't know what else to do. So as soon as I hit max level, and I think it was the start of season 2 TBC. That was my first max level, and then I started doing BGs just to get like epics because I wanted purple gear. That was the easiest way to get it.
Yes. Did you ever push arena rating back in original TBC, or?
No, I couldn't get past 1500.
Bro, just say 2K, please. Thank you.
Yeah. And when did you actually start using keybinds? I'm assuming you were a clicker for a certain amount of time.
I think I messed around with the idea toward the end of Wrath, maybe. I was clicking for a long time. It wasn't until Kata where I started really processing like old Swifty videos, and I really started to learn. Yeah, so I followed a suit from him, and I actually leveled and mained a warrior at the beginning of Kata, and that's when I got my first like 2.2 and 2.4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And you played Warlords Draenor, you did RBGs at that time as well?
I think I played. I got enough wins for just Hero, and then I quit the entire expansion. I think it's like 50 wins at the time. So I played like a few weeks and then stopped for the whole expansion.
What brought you back to Classic?
I wasn't planning to play Kata as much as I am, to be honest. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to play because I had that. I bought into that stigma that Kata has, that it was a bad expansion, and everyone said this. And Blizzard also said that they're gonna speed up the expansion because they even believed it too, but they didn't want to skip it. It turned out to become probably my favorite one, even above Mop almost.
Whoa,
that's just from the combat. It's a big take, yeah.
That's a big take. I mean, not many people would say that. I have to admit myself that Kata this time around is definitely more fun than the first time around. That's my perspective. Maybe because I understand more about the game. I did enjoy season 9. Season 9 of Cataclysm was a lot of fun. I think things were relatively well balanced, more than it is now. But yeah, it is interesting that you think that Kata is actually better than MOP. Maybe your opinion will change when we play MOP. Maybe you'll be like,
Probably.
yeah, maybe MOP is better
Probably,
than Kata.
but I was pretty blown away, and I think a lot of that has to do with the experience and the connections that you have.
Is it more of a community thing that made Cataclysm better?
I can't say, because I didn't get into a big community in original Kata.
Yes.
That was probably why I didn't like it as much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say I didn't like it. I always liked the combat. I thought the combat was really smooth. And I like bursty playstyle.
Yeah, well, every expansion start from Kata started becoming more and more bursty. I mean, look at retail today. It's all about the bursts, I think.
Actually, MOP is very slow in the first season, and that's what made me say what I said before.
Yeah.
It's very, like, drain the healer's mana before you get a kill type of gameplay, at least in the first season.
I totally agree with you. I went on the MOP private server just to try out Warrior because I'm thinking of rerolling Warrior for MOP, and I was doing some twos with Guest Pal, and man, those games just take forever. And this is last season of MOP when there's like you have the best PvP gear available, and you have to wait for dampening, and dampening doesn't ramp up fast enough, and the games just take really long. So, in a sense, it probably is like a slower pace, play style compared to Cataclysm Arena. Now, in RBGs, I don't know like how it's going to be in the season 1 compared to the end of the season. I guess we'll just see. I want to get into the RBGs, man. Let's talk about RBGs. Let's go. Yeah. So, if I recall, you arrived a bit late during season 9, correct? You weren't there at the beginning.
Right.
Was it because you weren't playing Cataclysm, or is it just because you weren't focusing on RBGs at the time?
I joined and was just sort of raiding, and I wasn't really hooked yet. I was like playing other games and taking a week and 2 off here and there. I had no plans to play, like I said.
No plan. Okay. But then at some point you decided that you were going to get into RBGs, and I'm trying to recall if we faced each other during season 9. I think we did. When I swapped to my DK, I got to Pharaoh quite high in RBGs, and then I swapped to my DK, and then we started playing against each other. I think I was playing with Episode. I think you were forming groups with Vayne. How did you meet Vayne? It's always curious. You guys seem to always play together. And was it someone you knew previously, or someone that you met in the game?
No. Do you want me to tell you how I got in the RBGs?
Yeah, sure.
So, given my previous RBG experience, I don't know if you know it from NA servers and MOP. So you have eHeroes in Europe, right?
Yes.
In NA, you have ABN, Abney team.
Yeah, I remember.
Whenever he makes a team, everyone fears it, right? That's the guy.
Yes.
There's another guy called Bailamos too, but he sometimes gets the leftovers, and he's really annoying as well.
I played against him many times back in MOP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's meh, but anyway, long story short, I did my climb over there, I did my networking, and I excelled at my role, and then I was playing with ABN. And so when you play at the top over there, and then you come here, it's an overwhelming task to have to re-network with no reference or connection, especially having quit the game and losing contact with all those guys for so long too, and being in a new region. So I knew no one. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to get into RBGs. And then one day I just joined an LFG group. And I met this guy called Moondog,
Mm-hmm.
and we were in a really shit group. He said, "Let's leave and make our own group," or something like this. So I actually left, made our own group, and he invited Ufa, and that's actually the first person that I met that I still talk to. He was the best. Ufa was the best one in that group. You could tell because he had good awareness. And he was pressing his keys, and he understood some things. And then from there, I saw Shreddy streaming. We kept queuing into Shreddy randomly. It was back and forth actually. And then I joined Shreddy, and then it was actually the first one that joined Shreddy out of the group I play with now was actually Tibbs. Tibbs would make random groups after he transferred from Horde. Bane is Tibbs' friend.
Yes.
Originally, because they were all Horde. So he transferred, joined Shreddy, and then me and Tibbs connected. And then I saw Lily always posting in LFG, but he would always decline me. I could never get into his groups because I didn't have like whatever he was requiring. I was like 100 or 200 CR lower. It's like he didn't ever give me a chance. And then Tibbs sort of gave me like a reference when he played with Lily, and then Lily brought me. And then from there, I think from there we were just climbing like 80 points per session.
And what were you playing?
And then we started to actually form our team. I was playing DK.
You were playing DK, okay. That was your main during Season 9, correct?
Well, I tried the Shadow Priest angle,
Yeah.
but we could never find a DK. And
okay.
I was actually raiding on DK at the time because I was under the impression that Shadow Priests were really bad in the first tier because the haste was low. And I was doing dungeons, and I got fooled because in dungeon gear they're shit, but in raids they're actually okay.
Yeah.
But I got scared and didn't want to have a shit tier, so I rerolled DK for raiding. So I already had a DK ready to go, and I said, alright, let me just get some PvP gear and then I'll come. This is when I was still forming with Moondog and Ufa and these guys. Which was like a 1.8 team. You know what I mean? Like max.
Yes.
And then from there, I mean, everyone needed DKs, right? So I just learned as much as I could. I'm not really that much of a melee person either, so.
But
luckily,
it's
rotation's simple. It's more positioning.
You know, I see some similarities with kind of like my WoW experience. You know, I was living in the US back in the day, and I was playing on US servers, and it's funny that you played against Bylamos. If that's what you said, you spoke about him, so I'm assuming you played against him or with him at some point.
Played with him, yeah. Both.
You played with him. I wonder if we ever faced each other. This was during
Probably
MOP.
did. Yeah.
That's
most certainly we probably did. When I played with Bylamos, I think I played a lot of Shadow Priest, Mistweaver, and Holy Priest. Those were like the three that I played the most.
Okay. I had a druid called you probably wouldn't remember the name. I had hit 2.4k during MOP, and I was also playing a rogue FC at the time, but it was called Wiegot. It's like a German word for like godlike. Such a cringe name, not gonna lie, but it was WIEGOTT. If that rings any bells out, it would have been hilarious if you actually did remember that character. But why did you play on a North American service? By the way, you were living.
I was living there, yeah.
Okay, you're American, correct?
Yeah, I was born there, yeah.
You were born,
so
okay.
I was there until I was in my 20s, and then I moved abroad.
I see.
And now I'm in my 30s.
Yeah.
Perspective.
I should. It should be so obvious with the way you speak, but I think I've been talking to you for such a long time that I just completely had forgotten that you were American. That's actually cool. So now you play in European servers. You were playing with Abney in Bylamos back then, the so-called rank 1 RBG leader, self-proclaimed. That's what he was going with. Self-proclaimed. Those people were talking about him. Actually hilarious. I was watching much of his videos at the time. And
he's insane, by the way. He's the only guy that can get away with playing a shit spec and actually excel. He was always arcane, if you remember.
Didn't he play?
And no one played arcane.
I thought he played Druid.
No, he only played arcane mage. Only. Doesn't matter what season or expansion. Until maybe, I don't know, many expansions later, like after Legion maybe.
Well, when I was playing
Or
against him,
after
he was
WoD,
playing
sorry.
on a playing a Worgen Feral Druid.
No,
Yes,
never.
we're talking about Bilamos, or are you talking about ABN?
No, oh ABN.
Oh, excuse me. So yes, ABN was playing on Arcane. I remember. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So so you came to Europe. You played on European servers. You started getting to RBGs. You met Tibbs. You met Vayne. You met Lily and the others. At what point did you decide to actually form a serious team to push rating?
That session that Tibbs invited me to Lily's pug group.
Yeah.
And then after that, actually the team itself is mainly like Tibbs' team. I know people always call it the DK's team, but it's actually like Tibbs is the one that formed this team.
Okay.
He invited JC, he invited Vayne, he invited Hotramore, he invited Magwheel, Shadow Song. It's literally his team. I don't know where he found a lot of these people. It's like mainly previous experiences or random run-ins or previous raids, or they came with Horde. It was like all of this.
Okay. And what was your your take out of like season 9 RPGs at the time? And you guys pushed pretty far, didn't you? I think you pushed like 2400 plus rating, right? You guys got HOTA?
Yeah. What was my take?
What was your perspective?
It was all about learning, right?
Yes.
We didn't care. Like I think we were one of the very few teams that would like endlessly press the Q button, even though we knew we had like a 5 or 10% chance to win. But we would keep doing it because there was so much to learn. The enemy team was showing us so many things, and we were friendly with them, right? It was like Relents, Serad, and then like half of eHeroes. So you had like Swag, Bloody,
yes,
Sandro, forget the healers. But yeah, they were much better than us, especially at the time.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to learn, so the perspective was just all about learning. Or do you mean like the population or something?
No. I was really your takeaway, as in like, what did you learn? Is exactly what you answered, and I think I've heard the story before. I don't know if it was you that talked about it or someone else that talked about it, but the fact that you guys actually found the courage just to queue without necessarily dodging eHeroes to actually learn how to beat them. I thought that is quite interesting, because many teams don't even want to bother trying to even learn how to beat eHeroes, and I think that you guys have had much success with it. I know that it was not easy at the time to actually go against and just consistently lose, but from my understanding and from what I've been hearing is that now it's not like completely one-sided. When you guys go against eHeroes, is this true or?
Yeah. I mean, well, at the time, you have to keep in mind as well, a lot of the people stopped playing. Like literally, as we were getting our 2-2 achievement, Avidance quit the game.
Yes.
That was right around that time. So it was only, and I think right after they quit, the full eHero squad quit. And half of them did end up staying and playing with Relents, but there was no other team to play us. There was no other team that could contest with us, because every other team, we were just absolutely stomping, right? So it was either play them or stomp these other teams and not learn anything and just hit rating, and that wasn't very fun. And I want to be the best, right? And I think a lot of the people were like that too. And we all had that mindset that we're just gonna look at what we can do better and just take it from there. There was no flaming. There was no one ever upset. And we lost probably like 70 games or something at the end of the season, something like this, something crazy. But there was never like any raging or anything. Just learning.
That's actually quite interesting, because obviously when you play really high intense games at that rating, oftentimes, I've been there. Emotions come out. People get mad. People flame each other, and it's not easy. Like, how? Like, was it just because everybody was on the same like wavelength that just really wanted to learn? And second part, like, like, how did you guys analyze? Like, what specifically did you notice that you were doing wrong? And maybe before you actually get into like that sort, what comp were you playing? Just so people have an idea of, you know, was it like this? Were you guys playing a mirror comp with against eHeroes? You know?
Yeah. It was always the same comp. It was the standard DK double boomy mage rogue warlock
Okay.
valley priest feral.
Okay.
How did we? The first thing I can say is I think the thing that we became really known for was our team fight. I think you start within and then you work your way out. I think to me that means I would go back and watch everything. And I wish I recorded more than I did, to be honest. But there were people that were recording. At the same time, I didn't have to record to notice some of the mistakes that I do. And then my skill is I can think beyond. Like in NA servers, I was the only Shadow Priest that would utilize like a mind control or play a 3-orb spec, which I don't know if you know what that is, but
I do.
So in MOP you have 3 orbs or you have mind spike, and I would actually
Yeah.
run 3 orb and I would target call. So I had the target calling capabilities in the bag. I just had to learn the kata meta because it's completely different from MOP. So I wanted to organize the team fight first, and then obviously Feral and Rogue, they already are looking at the map. But once we analyze team fight, then we can zoom out a little bit and start to learn callouts for the map. So we were always weak with that. That took a while to learn the maps, because all the things that you may think you know about maps at 2K MMR is completely different against eHeroes. I feel like you have to think ahead. And I mean, I don't know if you were acute into Willex in a closer game, but he is very good at reading the maps and thinking. It's like he's like a chess player with this shit. So, you know, and I'm not at that level, but the Rogue and Feral sort of have to be, right?
Yes, they do. So I think so. You obviously brought up team fight, which I absolutely want to dive into that, and obviously RBG strats. However, you mentioned something that it's kind of like a chess game, and this is something that I recently realized. I'm like, because I play some chess. I'm not that good, but you know, I do play and I do understand. And you know, whether you look at it from like an RBG perspective or a team fight perspective, there is. It's quite similar to chess, because you have your standard openings, right? Whether it's you look at a Wrath Basin, either Storm, whether you look at a team fight, you know, 9 versus 9 in Warsong Gulch or Twin Peaks, you have your standard openings, right? Some openings have the advantages and disadvantages, and then you have later on within the team fight the end game, and then you know at the end of the battleground also the end game. And I was curious to see what is your favorite rated battleground opening within the team fight, assuming it's Warsong Gulch.
When you mean opening strat, opening rotation?
For example, I like to go in as a DK. I like to go in and grip bomb someone. For example, that is like, for example, that's an opening in team fight that you could do. Some rogues maybe like to sap a healer, whether it's a priest or holy paladin, and then connect with a DK later on, or you know, you just start off with just DPSing with the rogue sap, and then the rogue, when he gets a good setup, he calls for a kidney smoke bomb and you connect with him. I don't know. I just want to see what your perspective is. Like, what do you go for in the team fight? Is it dependent on who's on your team, or is it something specific you always go for?
Yeah, that's the tough thing with RBGs, is that you can never answer these questions because it's not a script like Arenas is, or which Arenas is closer to. Arena players will get mad at it. Arena, especially triple DPS, is very scripted,
Yes.
from my understanding. But to answer your question, back to what I said about thinking with innovation in mind, right? You have to think beyond the ways that are just the script. So when you say grip bomb, yeah, in a perfect world you grip bomb and then they don't move. But the reality is they're gonna drink it, and all the boomies at the time were playing this feral talent that when you dash you break a root. So Chains of Ice loses value. So how do you counter this? You have to think beyond this, because at the higher level that's not gonna cut it. So then at the higher level, then you want to look for boomies that are out of place, call your rogue to go, and bomb that target, and then when they shrink and try to leave, you grip them back in and then chain them. That's the perfect world rotation.
I agree. I
And
totally
then
agree.
the script gets even deeper, right? So then you start thinking, okay, at the highest level, paladins and priests are always going to bomb and grip that. As soon as I see cheap shots, so what do? You chains of ice, tell the rogue to bomb, and then cheap, so that they can't move out of the bomb, even when they're not stunned, and then the stun comes in, so it's a lot less predictable. It's little things like this that I love thinking about. I would always try to over-analyze and evaluate, and then integrate this into my movements and strats.
Okay. So,
But yeah,
so in the beginning of a team fight, assuming it's like Warstone Gulch, your first grip is not going to be your kill target, right? What do you usually grip? Do you grip whatever is closest to you that's, within the vicinity of the grip? Or do you actually like grip a healer, warlock? What is your first grip going to be usually?
well, I would say know thy enemy, right? If you know that you're queuing into something like eHeroes,
Yes.
then that first grip is actually meant to disrupt gameplay, not to get a kill.
Yes.
So you want to throw them off, you want to stop damage, you want to get CDs out of the healers, you want to stop damage on boomies. It just depends so much. It depends on their position as well. Like if their DK pushes up and he's way over, maybe I'll just chain and bomb him there and with a strang and call for a beam on him, something like this. Or maybe I'll grip him even further back so that he's ranging the healers, then healers have to push up, call for Typhoon, bomb him in the it's all, there's a million ways to do it. But I think generally it's common practice to just try to bomb a boomy. We actually got to the point where we were actually bombing DK every time at the end, right?
Yes.
Until they stopped coming to RBGs. So, one of those two.
Okay. And, something that I always tell, obviously you've, we're talking about season 9, but obviously you played during season 10 and you're playing this season as well. And you're very successful with your team. I'm curious to see, like, what is your perspective on the enemy Warlock? Do you guys have a specific plan to slow down the UAs at the beginning of the fight, or is it just a constant thing over time, or is it something you don't really focus on?
I don't focus on it. I get to the point where, like, there are times where I grip the Warlock first. Actually, it
Yes.
just depends. Everything depends. Like the main thing I'm looking at, and I've caught every Warlock you can think of in this trap. As soon as they step, I have a good way of measuring the yard distance between.
Yeah.
So I look for their portal, and if I see that I can grip them outside of that portal range, I grip them. And so many times, if you can get a Warlock out of the fight, it's a game changer.
It is.
Because it's so hard for boomies to ramp, obviously.
I think it's such a smart play to actually look at the portals on the ground. It's something that I sometimes do. I try to keep an eye out for the portal, but it's probably not as accurate as how you do it. If you can grip if the Warlock outside the portal range, I think that's just a huge play. There's nothing he can do. He can't. His movement sucks. He doesn't have blink. He doesn't have. He can't shift out of the slows. He's essentially just screwed if he's gripped out of the portal range. So that's actually huge. So you specifically don't necessarily grip the lock, but you obviously, I'm assuming, lead your RBG team. I think it was at some point during season 10 or season 11. Is that correct? Would you consider yourself a leader? Like you are the organizer, the orchestrator of your RBG team?
To be honest with you, there wasn't one.
There wasn't one? Okay, that's...
No. Everyone sort of knew what to do. Everyone would make call-outs and we'd agree on it as it comes up. There was no one voice says all. Okay. And I like that, actually. Yeah. I like that a lot.
And I think that is the way to go. I think I do believe that when you're at a lower rating, obviously you have to have that one leader that kind of shines and kind of guides the group. Yeah, sure. But at a certain level, everybody should be capable of, leading and knowing exactly what to do.
I think the only thing that I led was team fight offense. That was I was the only one talking. Well, not the only, you know what I mean. I was the one mostly talking, telling this person to do this. And I think a great thing about DK's doing that is how simple DK is to play. You're not really looking at your bars or worrying about cooldowns outside of AMS. Absolutely. You're really just focusing on your footwork and analyzing the game, the playing field. I think that's why DKs do that. Also because they're burst, obviously, but...
And So getting back to what you were talking about previously, that you guys were actually recording your games against eHeroes, and you guys were analyzing and trying to improve. What were some of the specific points that you guys were doing wrong that you were able to identify and then improve on that to have a better advantage against eHeroes?
I'm trying to think of like my own case examples.
Yeah.
I think that's more so watching my positioning. But I would say as a team, one of the big things that eHeroes was super good at is, I remember one time, I think at some point in Agonaeus, we beat them at Waterworks. And they rezzed and came as one pack instantly to Lighthouse. And we were not fast enough to react. Even though we were floating, just the sheer speed and like mutual agreement they had amongst each other to show up at Lighthouse so quickly, it showed that they don't waste any time. They're all on the same page.
Yes.
And it's these little things, like being confident about your decision, not have people hesitating or staggered or anything like this. That shows the communication is strong, the understanding of how the map operates is strong. That's one example. Another example is, I use Agonaeus a lot because it's a very simple map.
It is.
So it's easy to analyze, but it's also, there are things that, it's a very teamfight heavy map as well. So if you look at like Waterworks or even like Blacksmith, like where all the team fights happen, one big mistake people do is they don't push onto the flag. The issue with this is that means they can cap, and then someone may have to overextend to try to hit them, or you get typhooned and then the healers don't move up from the typhoon, so you're just progressively falling back. All these things are a huge problem. And what people don't realize, especially in the meta that we're in now, is being ranged doesn't do anything now. There is no melee, so being on top of a healer versus being in your backline, as long as it's within 40 yards, it's no different.
That is a very good take. That's actually very interesting. And this is something that actually annoys the hell out of me, especially when I'm forming, there's more of those educational groups, is that I don't see like my team pushing in. I ask them to push in, they don't push in, and we go against like full caster teams, and there should be no problem, spreading out, even if it's on top of the enemy team, because it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to take more damage, right?
Yeah. There's one caveat, right?
Yes.
A healer can't stop. The healer can't stay on top of a holy pal because he can repeat. That's like the only thing.
Yes.
Other than that, it doesn't matter. And people stay stuck even to this day on either storm, and then get 8-man busted in the middle when they could have easily pushed the top of the enemy healer, especially druids, and just typhoon them as it comes up and not get the bust.
Yes.
It just doesn't make sense to me why people don't do this, but little things like this when you watch on a video and make click more for some people. So.
Yep. Speaking of Battle of Agonaeus, maybe you can, now that we have like maybe your perspective on the team fight as a DK, obviously like I would love to hear your perspective on like priorities for other classes as well, if you have those priorities in mind. But we can go into like strats and maybe like what your takes are on different situations. Battle of Agonaeus is an interesting one, especially when you play Horde. Oftentimes, like usually the strat is you keep the Pharaoh at mine defending. You have the rogue usually go front side to Waterworks, and then you have the rest of your team go backside. That is one way of doing it. There's like variations where the mage also goes front side, for example, or Abumi goes front side in stealth. I think those are somewhat valid as well. But what I'm interested in is backside going to Waterworks a big disadvantage compared to the team coming from Lighthouse?
Yes. Yeah, because you get bottlenecked.
Yeah. And how would you counter that? Like, do you have a counter? Like, for example, have you ever gone against eHeroes and were Horde and went from backside to Waterworks and won the team fight?
I don't think we ever fought eHeroes from the Horde side because they actually were queuing on their Horde characters.
I see. So
they played their full team.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure there was one point because they did end up coming back Alliance, especially when the staves came out.
hmm
So I'm sure there was some game where we played them, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Can't remember, to be
But
honest.
let's just like theory craft or whatnot, or maybe you have examples of games where, what would you do to ensure that if you're going backside to Waterworks that you do make it, you change,
Yeah.
you find advantages with your disadvantages.
Well, you have to utilize your class and try to counter what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is put a Ring of Frost, Beam, and Typhoon in the whole back line.
Yes.
So you can, I mean, in a perfect world, you have Priest go right side to get cover from him when they need it,
hmm
like toward the house. And then
Yes.
you can have, obviously, a Pally left side on the fence and push up. It just depends, is there a DK or not? Because if there's not a DK, then you can have everyone push up without fear. Just go all the way to their back line. Keep just holding down W. But if there is DK, then maybe you want to play that a little more secure.
hmm
And it also depends if I'm DK, right? I'm thinking, what would I do? If the mage is being aggressive and he's blinking in to get a good ring, I'm gonna fall back to the water, grip him, and get his block, guaranteed.
Nice.
If not, I mean, you can also strang, right? Very seldomly, our healer is gonna instantly dispel a strang on a boomy. Maybe you'll delay the solar beam for a few
Yes.
seconds. I mean, it will. It's 5 seconds, so it'll eventually get dispelled. But maybe if that 1 second could make the difference. I don't know. It's things like this. You have to think like, what can I do to get to that flag spot and not be in the stroke hold? And also, how can we spread out and mitigate the damage we're trying to do, literal or just with a CC?
hmm So as a DK, do you actually push towards a flag, or do you stay kind of in the black back line looking for a grip, assuming that the enemy team is just full meta without a DK? And does it change if there's a DK on the enemy team? I guess it really also depends if the rogue's in the enemy team fight as well.
Well, rogue's always there.
Yeah.
I think if I'm on DK, then the enemy has a DK. If the enemy team doesn't have a DK, I'm probably not on DK.
Yeah, I think that makes
with this current meta. But
yes.
back then, back then, in a perfect world, like Willex always used to come from Horde side, and he would try to get a sap on me. And obviously, you can
Yeah.
Lichborn and avoid it, but that's not good because then you lose a bit of swap ability. So you can pretty much push up as long as you have Trinket and AMS. You can push up to almost wherever you want, as long as you don't. Their DKs are lining up a grip LOS, then that's a problem. But other than that, you can pretty much push up. So my goal was to try to push in. And if they were annoying our back line, I would, many times I would grip a rogue as he's about to bomb. The bomb would go
Yes.
off, but the grip would happen. Like these little grips. So if you can push up and then grip the rogue off your healers, that's huge. You can go backline and annoy enemy healers. You can go sit on boomkins. But yeah, you're definitely pushing up front and just trusting your healers.
There's another thing I wanted to get into. It's regarding timing. I think in Raid Battlegrounds, timing is something many people overlook. Right? Sometimes many teams kind of do make decisions at random times. Right? Maybe it's intuition. Yep. Maybe it's just like, oh, let's just go do this right now. How do you take advantage of timing? Whether it's with res timers, whether it's for ninja caps, is there anything you would like to share regarding that?
Yeah, let's hit them all.
Let's hit them all. Yeah,
ninja caps. You want ninja caps? You want to watch the enemy res timer, and you want to assault the node after they run away after they res. You never want to try to take a node when res is 15 seconds, and you're gonna get the kill, be mid cap, and then they res.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, have you play Boomy, correct? Yes, I think your main right now is a Boomy. And so yeah. you've gone ninja capping with a rogue before, right?
Yeah, I've done it before. Yeah. Not very much, to be honest.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, I haven't done it as much as you probably think I have. And the reason is because you have 3 boomies on a team.
Yes.
So you generally will always have 2 staying in the team fight, and then 1 doing map stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Tibbs was always that Boomkin. Tibbs has got a lot of synergy with JC, and Tibbs is
I see.
always off doing things. You know, obviously I will go and float where needed, but
But you're more a team fight kind of guy because you have the experience with the DK, and so obviously you excel within the team fight. You know what to do. You know what the calls need to be. What calls need to be made to make plays. So, I think that's probably one of the reasons.
somewhat.
Yeah.
I also like, I think Lily does probably the most or one of the top damage dealing Mookins, right? So we always try to keep him in the team fight. So I actually, from my Shadow Priest days at MOP, I'm actually very used to being actually the floater.
I see.
So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I've probably done it a lot more than I'm thinking of, I guess, now that I think of it. But,
okay. Obviously, you play Boomy. You play at a high level, so you know. I think I would say that you are a very good Boomy at the very least. And I had a talk with some of the guys. You were actually in the Twitch chat at the time, where this was. I think it was a Sunday. Sunday evening queues were terrible, to say the least. Terrible in the sense where. Obviously, I took a little bit more, less experienced people, and the damage just wasn't there. We were playing 1 DK. I think it was 3 Boomies, Mage, probably even 4 Boomies at one point. I didn't even think we even had an FC and a Lock and 3 healers. I think we didn't even have a Mage. But something that I had noticed was that it wasn't very clear to some of these Boomies who had just recently started playing WoW, by the way. I had to chat with one of them, which I think is awesome, having new players start WoW in 2025. I think that's awesome. But they weren't very sure on what their rotation kind of is for Moonkin, especially when it comes to maintaining that dot, what specific casts, what spells you cast, and in what order, what your opener is with shrooms, maybe Trents. I was curious to see like what you focus on as a Boomy in the team fight.
First moments in the team fight, you want to get into an eclipse, so you're gonna get into lunar eclipse right away.
And okay, this might be, but for the people that don't know, how do you get into lunar eclipse at the very start of the game?
Yeah, there's a talent called Lunar Showers that when you use more than 1 Moonfire, you get a buff after 1, and then after that, every Moonfire after that gives you, I think it's 8 lunar power in a direction. So you need 100 to get into the eclipse. So you just keep spamming Moonfires until you get in, and obviously if you get a Star Search proc, you use that. That gives, I think, 15. And then as soon as you get in, then you pop your Starfall. And I guess some Boomies will pop it in the very beginning, but I like doing it when I get in the Eclipse. And then you start using both dots, because the way Insect Swarm works is they actually made it solar and nature damage. It's called Spellstorm damage.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. So Insect Swarm does 2 types of damage at the same time, correct?
Insect Swarm is it's like Mind Spike for Shadow Priest. Mind Spike is Shadow and Frost. So it's it's like its own combined spell school. They made this change back in October in this iteration of Kata because Boomies were hyper concerned with getting in Solar Eclipse PvE.
Mm-hmm.
So now they made it valuable to use Insect Swarm in both.
I see. So yeah. What you focus on obviously is just spamming Moonfire at the start, using your Star Search procs to get into that lunar eclipse, and to use Starfall at that time, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And obviously, what time do you use Trents, for example? Did you pop it right from the start?
Yeah, Trents are they're not that great.
They're not that
great.
They got
like 20, 15k, 20k health. You don't want to give them like procs or something, you know what I mean? Or like let them benefit by hitting them. I use it like maybe you can sit it on a healer and give them a little spell kickback. But then they're pretty much running concentration aura. You can use it on a bomb You can use it on an FC. It's like moments where every little bit of damage will help. Use it. It's not really like a huge prio to use.
Yeah, it's not a
I would
huge
say just
prio.
drop it. Just drop it
Yeah.
anytime in the team fight. Ideally on the first skill, maybe.
Yeah.
Probably the best, or a healer.
And what about shrooms? Is that something you constantly use during team fight? I would assume no. I think it's probably something you might use maybe at the beginning.
So shrooms give curse of elements. So if a warlock can't get that up, then this is needed because you're not going to get 8% extra spell damage otherwise.
Yes.
Because you're not casting Wrath and Starfire. I also like to use it if they're clumped up. If there's maybe, let's say, like 3 or 4 plus, it's very good to use because they hit maybe like 8k normals on everyone.
Yes.
Per shroom. So that can really add up. They're especially good in solar eclipse because they get the benefit. So they do whatever your mastery is plus %. But outside of that, I think one of the most important things is rotating and always getting a Moonfire or Sunfire cast off every other cast to keep your lunar showers and whatever that talent's called.
Yeah.
Because what that does is it makes you, as long as you have the talents for it, it makes your direct damage Moonfire do 135% damage, which can crit upwards of like 18k just the dot application. So as you're applying dots, you're getting this hard hit every time on someone.
Okay.
And it does add up a lot.
So if I could summarize, your kind of opener is not really to use Trents, or to use it maybe later on for, minor increases in damage, like for smoke bomb and stuff like that. But what you like to do is just start off with just Moonfire, get Moonfire up on as many people as you can, get in that lunar Starfire. I imagine at this point you're going to be reapplying Moonfire on as many people as possible because you're in lunar eclipse. And then later on is to rotate between Moonfire and Insect Swarm, correct?
Yeah.
Would that be, say, your opener, and just maintaining that 3, your buff, the 3 stacks of lunar showers, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You're using Typhoon, an opportunity where you can either interrupt or mastery spellcast, or just knock them back or put them in the water. It depends on the situation.
Okay.
If you're looking for a good beam target, that's pretty.
Yeah. And do you tab target, or do you actually manually click the nameplates and track who has dots already, or do you just don't care? You just reapply. You just tab, reapply, Moonfire, tab, Moonfire.
I think that's more of a beginner way to do it. I think beyond that, you wanna scan the field.
You want to scan the field, yeah.
At your nameplate, who doesn't have the buff. I mean, we all fall into habits sometimes, and we'll tab, but I always try to correct it because I never tab as a DK, right? But for some reason, I started doing it at the beginning of the Boomy career. But yeah, I think it's much better to get in the habit of clicking nameplates and trying to get people in range. Make sure that they don't have the dots. Try to prioritize new dots or fresh dots rather than reapplying half worn out dots, for example.
Okay, and obviously, like for Moonkin, what do you reforge to? What is your priority for stat wise?
Depends if you're getting DI or not. There's a stat spreadsheet on Wowhead. You can follow that. You want to try to get either 1929 or 23. That's 23 something. 2322, I think.
The haste cap you're talking about, yes?
Yeah. Or is it 2422? It's like something like the 2 or 3 or 24. You want to get one of these, depending if you get DI or not, and then you go mastery after.
Oh, when you talk about the eye, what are you talking about? The eye? The eye of what? The
DI. Dark Intent.
Oh, Dark Intent. Warlock. Sorry, it sounded like the eye. Yes, Dark Intent. Yes, with the 3% haste increase. Nice.
Yeah. So on our team, right, we have Lily playing the Dark Intent haste cap, and I drop my haste down for the stronger Eclipse.
I see. Okay. So it really depends. So you obviously have someone on the team that's definitely going to get DI, so that they can go for that higher haste cap, so they can reforge whatever they need to get the higher haste cap, and then you, if you don't get it, you just go for more of that mastery. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've tried both. I've tried spamming haste nonstop, and I've tried dropping mastery. It sucks because the faster gameplay feels more fun.
Yes.
but I find that it's slightly more damage if you're not getting DI to drop it, because you're not actually benefiting from, let's just say, 400 haste outside of just faster globals. So the dots hitting harder, I think, pays off, but I guess it's still up for debate. Like Moonfire, for example, just spams haste, right?
Yes.
But there are other boomies out there that actually do drop their haste and play more mastery. I think it's flexible. It's very close in damage.
But Moonfire is obviously getting DI every time, since looking at how much damage he actually pumps.
I'm not quite sure. I think the DI isn't as important as getting Zerker, and I think getting in the habit. This is probably a next topic or something, but getting in the habit of looking for where the Zerkers are, especially with Boomkin, because you have stealth. Trying to get Zerker right before they're about to run in, and then joining your team, is game changing. That's something like Razzie, for example, really good at. Talking about like enemy team, not our team.
Yes.
But on like the enemies, like Razzie was really good at this. I think Lasse, Laser Disease, I think his name is. He was also very good at. There's certain booms that are very good at this, preemptively waiting. So if you can get the habit of doing this, I think that's gonna set you beyond what any DI can do.
Just
30% is quite a lot.
Getting the timing up for the Berserk.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't even gotten a timer for it, but I'm sure there's a weaker out there somewhere that shows cooldowns for them.
I was literally thinking about that. I was like thinking, are you guys using a weak aura to track Berserk spawns in Battlegrounds? I don't even know if that's something that is exposed by Berserk API.
Oh, there's some weird shit out there. Surely it's on a static timer, but no, none of our guys have it. It's just kind of instinctive at this point, right?
Yeah, it's true. I think it has like I think in Warzone Gulch it respawns after after 2-3 minutes. I think it is. I'm not too sure on the respawn of the.
Yeah, sure. Sounds right.
Yeah. Regarding solar beams, so this is solar beams is something that I feel like many people just don't agree on. When do you use solar beam, right? Do you use it for interrupting, like a caster? Do you use it for interrupting a healer on cast? Do you use it just as a blanket? Is it situational? Like, how do you approach it?
Everything depends. Everything depends. If a mage Frost Nova is 2 healers, and they're slowed with whatever, just they're sitting in a shroom, something like this. Like they're slowed and it's more than one person. I will sometimes blanket that, even though people say not to. If you can get them in a blanket, because the way solar beam obviously works, when you step outside, there's like a full second delay, like a smoke bomb.
Yes.
So you get value a lot if you can get 2 healers.
I agree.
Generally, I have a very Death Knight mindset, so I'm mainly looking to hit healers, but it's not always the play. Like, if the team fight's close, sometimes it's actually really good to shut down a mage. It just depends, right? If you're behind, you have the base, all these things. But generally speaking, I will try to lock up alley. That's what I like to do.
Okay. So yeah, I completely agree. I always recommend in the groups that I form for people to try to get that solar beam interrupt, but I'm like, but if you see people stacking, just solar beam them, and I just tell the mage, if you see a solar beam, there's multiple people standing in it, Frost Nova. But maybe the approach of the boomies looking for the Frost Novas instead of the other way around might actually be better.
No,
be a better play.
They shouldn't wait for that, because a boomy can actually solve that problem themselves. They can easily, by the way, detonate mushroom is off the global. Place mushroom is a half of a global. So you can place, detonate, beam all within 0.5 seconds.
Whoa.
So what that does is it puts a slowdown and a blanket. So they can do it all themselves. They don't have to. You don't have to have it.
Okay. All right.
So EOS, for example, that's a huge play. But I mean, I still, I'm still locked into lunar showers. All the positioning, all this responsibility. I'm just looking for that pally interrupt and typhooning them off the edge. That's what I'm mainly looking at. But
Right.
in theory, yeah, that's a good play to Shroom.
Yeah, so something that I had always thought was that like eHeroes and maybe your team, you guys all had a very clear plan, like maybe almost scripted, which you said scripting is probably more something you do in Arena, but more of like, you know, everybody has like their opening priorities in a team fight. And this is something that I wanted to get back into. And is it really everyone just knows what they're doing and there's not really something that's predefined? For example, like maybe the mage will focus on maybe slowing down the Warlock unstable afflictions at the start, and maybe like you might, you know, I mean, obviously boomies are just going to focus on damage, but do you guys not have like a clear-cut plan? Is it just everybody's good enough? Everybody, you trust your team. You trust your team to be able to make the plays when they are needed. Is this how it is? Like, how would you describe it?
I think everyone's very good at seeing their responsibilities, and it kind of fell into place on its own. Seeing what the enemies are doing of the mirrored spec or role, and analyzing what they're doing as a team, trying to find out why that works, find our own way, or replicate it.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Well, that kind of answers. Yeah, that answers my question. It's just, you know, people just good enough to know what they're doing, which is what I like to hear.
It's very difficult with that. It's not like everyone has that capability. I don't know how we got lucky. Most of us did. I mean, we had to replace a few people along the way, right? But
yes.
But I mean, we have talks as well. We have discussions, and we will recommend things to each other, of course.
Yeah.
But
generally speaking, everybody, there's no like clear-cut plan of what people, like specifically this person needs to do this person needs to do that in the team fight. It's just everybody knows their role within the team fight, and just depending what the enemy team does, they'll react according to that, depending on their position, you know, what they're casting, what they're doing. Like, for example, is the Warlock using casting Unstable Affliction during an Aura Mastery or not? You know, these kind of things, they'll just make plays according to that. Yes? Would that be accurate?
A lot of people were either natively good or very good learners.
Yes.
And they were able to grow themselves. And obviously there's recommendations, right? But like little things. But generally speaking, yeah.
Okay, great. Which comes back to the question I had in mind that I actually wanted to ask you, but I had forgotten. It had come back to me. I'm so happy because it's. I think it's something really important. Obviously, you know, the state of the RBG community is not doing great. It's not healthy. Is probably the word that I would describe it, and not in terms of, you know, toxicity or whatnot, just about the amount of players that are available. And my question to you is, as a new player, what would you recommend for them to get good at RBGs? Like, assuming that they had just started playing their class maybe like a month or two ago, and they're kind of figuring things out. Like, what would you recommend for them to actually be good at RBGs?
Network.
Make
friends that are better than you, and try to learn. RBG, you can ask anyone that's been above like 2-2. You can ask them, and everyone will say RBGs is like 70 to 80% networking, 20% skill. It is so important to try to meet people and network, make friends, and try to weasel your way in the groups. Maybe ideally that everyone is more excelled.
Yes, but obviously you could do networking, but you know, there are clear examples of people that attempted to do that. I'm not going to throw any names, but because of their lack of skill, that they ended up having just a really bad rep within the community as a player that doesn't know what they're doing in Rated Battlegrounds when they get invited into those better groups. What would you recommend to those people that maybe are lacking skill? Like, what should they do? Like, maybe, you know, sometimes some people say, yeah, you don't have to be a good arena player to be good at RPGs, which I agree, but you still kind of need to know your class. For example, is there anything specific that people should do?
I think arenas is a good place to start. If you go to arenas, you'll understand how to play against certain classes, and if you multi-class, even better, because then you can learn their weakness and exploit it. And then just volume, just queue a lot of games. Try to understand what you could do better, what maybe your team can do better, not like individually, but as far as on formation and all of this. You don't want to go blaming other people, but you want to see like what sets other teams apart than you.
Yeah, I agree.
And you can do this maybe by asking people or watching old videos, right?
Yeah. And I think that's good. I would go as far as say it probably maybe depends what class you play. For maybe a boomy, you don't necessarily need to know how to arena. You just need to know how to press your buttons in the right order. I would go as far as to say that for boomies, just maybe practice on the dummy the rotation that you want to do with multiple targets. Don't hesitate to raiding, because that'll teach you your rotation that you to actually get those parses that helps you learn your class even better. I think arena is really great if you play more of those classes that have a higher skill cap. For example, maybe rogues and mages and ferals. I think those are, and healers as well. Fake casting, Winter Dragon's Breath. You get a combust. Maybe you blanket counterspell a healer, or something like that. I don't know. I don't play a mage, nor am I even remotely good at mage. But these are things that I think they need to do. And for new players, it is unfortunate, but there is definitely a lot of effort, I think, involved in getting better. It's just because some people have a lot more experience, even though they may not have played consistently over the years. It's just, the game is kind of ingrained into you at some point. It doesn't matter what class you play, you could figure it out quite quickly. But I do agree with what you said, that communication and networking and communication is probably really important. I think it is an interesting take, though, that you say that it is 80% networking and 20% skill. I don't know if I agree with that. I think it's an interesting take. I think networking has kind of actually probably right. I mean, the good teams, if they don't know you, they're not going to take you. If we're only talking about the good teams, those the 2.2k plus teams, they don't take randoms, generally speaking, and it's generally hard to get into those groups. Well, yeah.
I think something that you said is going to a target dummy for a boomy, and I think that's the problem actually with a lot of boomies these days, is everyone knows how to spam their easy rotation, but no one knows how to defend. I don't know if you realize this, but a boomy loses almost every 1v1 on defense. So I think I disagree with the target dummy thing.
Yes.
Because if you can't defend a base, and if you can't ink a base, because you can't survive because you're just spamming tab dot, it's valueless. You have to bring value, right? So back to what I said about the networking thing. Yes, you have to network, but that's where that skill part comes in. Because after you network, you have to perform. Yes. Otherwise, you won't be brought again.
I agree.
So,
and
let's just say half and half, though.
Yeah. When I was talking about more of damages, I'm obviously talking about the team fight because most of the time spent as a boomy is probably going to be in the team fight. Sometimes you'll be defending, and yes, I think knowing how to defend is super important. I think awareness is super important. I think people that always regularly click their battleground enemies to see where the rogue and the other boomies and the feral are in stealth, and to understand what plays they might make, and to make the call outs, to anticipate that they might be coming to you, is something that is overlooked by so many people. I've seen the mistake happen so many times where they make the call out as the ninja cap is happening, and there's a boomy that's there with the rogue. I'm like, you didn't see this boomy in stealth for the past 30 seconds? You couldn't have called it out, And I think defending is exceedingly important. Knowing how to defend.
Yeah. People think defending is just watching a flag, but it's actually spam clicking the enemy team.
Exactly.
They should be spam clicking. They could even be making call outs in the team fight, things that people in the team fight may not be noticing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if a pally has no bubble, you can track this. If the rogue buff arrives, if it leaves, you can see these things.
I completely agree, and I think this is something that, again, is completely overlooked, and many players that are new to the game fall in this trap. Obviously, damage is important. Once they get damage down, and then they start defending, I have seen countless mistakes. It's so easy to ninja cap people when they are not aware of what's happening. Right? They often just, especially the new players, they just wait for someone to tell them what to do. I had the game the other day where, I, as the DK that's always in team fight, was keeping track of the enemy team and where they were defending in Wrathy Basin, right? Someone made a call, oh, the hunter's attacking me at this place. I'm like, well, the hunter was defending stables, so he's ghosting it. So, rogue, go stables right now. It's like, I shouldn't have to keep track of this. Other people need to be keeping track of this. And, it's something that's not always easy to do. And I think it's just something that comes with experience. And unfortunately, like for new players, yes, you have a mountain to climb. You have to learn your class. You have to know how other classes work. You have to know how to use focus macros. You have to know how RBG strats work. You have to keep track of. And I think it's just playing a lot of games, making the mistakes, which is okay. At the end of the day, it's everybody makes mistakes, and just learning and keeping things positive. I don't know what you think about that, but.
Yes. Not many people have this ability or mindset to not care about the scoreboard, not get overly concerned with damage, because very seldomly are you just going to be in every single team fight, every moment, all game. So in essence, the scoreboard, the total damage shouldn't matter that much to some people. Unless it's like a Warsong Gulch and all you're doing is team fighting back and forth. That's a little bit different of a map. But generally speaking, like let's use AB as an example. Like only maybe one boomy team should be in team fight all the time. Others are going to be either defending, inking, So it depends. It depends obviously, but I think looking at these kind of things, trying to understand the map, and I mentioned the damage thing because the map is so important to learn as well. Being able to predict and understand. We talked about chess before.
Yeah.
So being so locked in and not paying attention to the other stuff because you're just concerned with doing as much damage as you can, I think that's why a lot of boomies or players don't grow past the high damage and high healing output skill. They don't grow in other areas. So, trying to think of an example. You're pushing BS, it's 2-2. And you're pushing BS, and then the rogue inks. People won't expect this, and they also won't even think to go mine sometimes, So you'll have to call someone and say, you go. But it should be an instinct that as soon as that happens, the person with the highest mobility should be leaving, which is a boomkin.
I completely agree, and this is something that annoys me the most, is some people just don't take the initiative to actually say, hey, I'm gonna go mine, I'm gonna go back farm, I'm gonna do whatever, right? People
that happens everywhere.
Yeah, and I really wish, and I think obviously this is it's an experience thing. It's with experience you understand that these things need to happen, and they eventually learn. I'm like, I always tell people like, think for yourselves. The whole point is communication. Yeah. Don't expect to be micromanaged, the whole way through. So. Yep.
Yeah. You have to call people, and I notice it with, lower level games where you have a leader. That leader, if you say, I need someone, no, you can't say this. No, you have to say, name, come here. Name, go there. Because otherwise no one will volunteer because they care about the damage.
That is so true. Again, like going back to the example with the Res Basin, when I noticed the hunter that was defending stables wasn't there anymore, and I said not dance to. Originally I said, someone go stables. Not a single word was said on. No one moved on Discord. or in the game.
Yeah.
Everybody was still fighting whatever base they were fighting at. I had specifically say not dance, which is the rogue I was playing with, some gladiator rogue. I'm like, you go stables, right? And he was like, okay, I'll go. And he got it. He's like, I got it. I'm like, obviously you got it. I told you to go get it because I know it was being ghosted. You know, it is funny. Like also like for example that it was the same game, literally the same game. I had our warlock defending blacksmith, right? I noticed the rogue and probably a druid or something, the enemy druid, enemy rogue were trying to get farm from us, and we had a boomy that was defending, and I was a LM, and there was no way in hell I was going to get to farm before our boomy died, and they were going to get 100%. They were going to get. No one was even close to getting to there. No one had bothered moving out, and I knew in my mind that the rogue was defending stables, and so I was like, okay, Lock, go mine. Oh, the rogue was defending mine, and I said, Lock, go mine, because now he was ghosting it, and the Lock was like, are you sure? I'm going to leave black. I'm like, yes, just go, trust me. And I left lumber mill, and I made it in time to the blacksmith, and he had gotten mine, and we lost farm, but we were stable the whole 3 bases. And these are the things like, these are like small details that sometimes, people overlook, especially when they're defending. It's like, oh, I'm just defending, like you had said. They just sit there and just wait for something to happen. No, it's not how it works. But yeah.
And so back to what I said about when I said that both our team fight up first, that also is worth mentioning that we had compared to the entire community, we all still had a very good understanding of maps, just not the best, right?
Yes.
There was obviously, we use eHeroes as a big example, right?
Yes.
So we were nowhere close to them, especially when we first started. And but people nowadays, they treat it like a Mythic Plus, and they don't pay attention to the map at all, and that's kind of a problem. That's like expecting to do a bench press and not ever training your triceps. You're eventually going to be bottlenecked.
Yes.
And you have to grow the whole thing so that you can fill your role. So I just wanted to mention that.
Let's talk about MOP. Let's talk about the future, right? The upcoming.
Sure.
The big plans. What are your big plans for MOP?
Try to retain as much as our team as we can.
Yes.
And I will probably not play DK because it's not the same. DKs are merely a dot setup class.
Yes.
And I prefer. I don't know how good Shadow Priest will be in the first season. I know they're amazing in the last season, but yeah, I would prefer to play Shadow Priest if I can. If not, I'll see.
Okay.
Pending.
Yeah, I'm aligned with you regarding the DK. I think DKs are going to be exceedingly boring. I tried them again. Tried private server. I tried DK as Frost. I saw how bad it was, and I don't like Unholy. I just like the instant burst damage.
It's good on one map. Frost is very good on Temple. Very good.
Temple. I heard about that. Yeah. Could be good, but I think I'm going to be.
I tested it.
Oh, you tested it. Oh, did you join the T-Dots?
Yeah.
Yeah. T-Dot was organizing some RBGs on the private server, wasn't he?
I played like probably 30, 40 games, maybe more.
30, 40 games. Okay, so you've tried quite a bit, and so as I was saying before we could continue down that road. Yeah, I'm personally going to probably be swapping to Warrior. I personally was never someone that actually played melees, but DK was kind of like the first melee I've played, and I love it. And I tried Warrior on the private service. It's fantastic. It's so much fun. But from your perspective, what is going to be the meta comp in the first season of MOP?
In my opinion, I think it's going to be DK Warrior Rogue, Mage, Warlock, and then a wildcard spot. That could either be another Warrior, that could be a Boomkin, that could be an SP, that could be a second Warlock. It could be a second Mage, it could be anything. It could be a Hunter. It just depends on your team, how you play it.
Yes.
I think there's a lot more flexibility in that last spot.
Mm-hmm.
Then as healers, you definitely want at least one holy priest and one monk. And then the last one you can run anything. I think ideally you want just a paladin. You could also
Yes.
run double monk.
What about
Some people are talking about druids. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
yes. Well, yeah. What are your thoughts about Resto Druids? You think they have a spot? Because I've heard whispers saying that Holy Paladin might not be the best. You know, Monk might not be the best. There definitely has to be a Resto Druid on your team. You know, which I did play Resto Druid back in MOP, but I don't necessarily agree with that take.
Druids are probably the best healer in arenas.
Yes.
I think they have a place in RBGs. In my opinion, I don't think that they're gonna be like the ideal meta comp.
Yes.
I think it could be, but I think priest and monk are just so good, and I don't know if you want to run without. I don't know. Like it could be Druid as the last spot.
Okay.
But I remember like feeling the most comfortable, depending on who's playing the last spot. It just depends. I knew some really good paladins. Other than that, I knew double Mistweaver, Holy Priest was like the cheese heal comp, from what I remember. That was very, very strong.
It is very strong. I think Mistweaver is just going to be so good. And I played Mistweaver for the first time in Shadowlands, and I had a blast in RBGs. I don't know how similar like the first version of Mistweavers are going to be compared to what Shadowlands had to offer. But it is also something that I'm generally considering of alting at some point, is playing Mistweaver, just because of how fun it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have a team? Do you already have a team set for MOP?
We generally try to keep the same guys. We really enjoy playing together.
Yeah.
Just depends if they all play.
All right. And
I think we have a little group of like 12, I think. As long as most of them play, we continue to operate within. But we're always open to try new people as well.
That's awesome. I always like to hear when teams are open to try new people. I understand people have like they're this kind of small group of friends that they like to play with all the time with, but I always find I always find it better when people get in other players that have maybe not as much experience or looking for a team to play with. I think it's always nice. So you have your team. It's probably gonna be the same team that you are playing with right now going into MOP. What is your goal at the end of MOP, or at the end of the first season of MOP? Are you guys? Obviously, I'm assuming you guys are probably going to get HOTA. I think there's no reason as to why you guys are not going to get it. But are you looking for that number one title spot against eHeroes, and do you think you're going to get it?
I think everyone wants to try to push to be the best, right? The idea is to win every game.
Absolutely.
So that would be the goal. I have to say the thing I'm the most excited about is all the people that quit toward the mid-end of season 9.
Yes.
Are probably going to come back. Avidance is the main person forward the fighting, because heard a lot of things but never had the chance to actually play them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in first season of MOP we're going to go back into that mindset of maybe we'll lose a lot, but we're just going to keep trying to learn.
Yeah.
And then a new expansion where a lot of my guys are, I think the only people that have played private server in recent MOP is like me and Rope.
Yes.
And so learning. I think learning is the best way to look at it. That's what we'll go back to doing as well. Everything will be new.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do hope you're going to succeed. I would love to see your team beat all the kind of like the those regular teams, if you want to call them that way, the teams that are always there, that are always at the top. It would be nice to see someone new at the top, and I think that you guys definitely have a shot. I think you guys have a really great players, and I've played against you guys multiple times. I played with you on a few occasions, and it's always a lot of fun, and I do enjoy the positivity that you bring to the community. I think that
Thanks, man.
I think that you and a few others are definitely make things a lot better, and And obviously, I think there's a lot of people rooting for you, especially when you go against eHeroes and other strong teams. So yeah, definitely looking.
Everybody likes the underdog, right?
Everybody likes the underdog. Yeah, everybody likes the underdog. Yeah.
So yeah, man, appreciate it. I think it's especially fun because everyone's gonna be noobs again.
Yes.
Just for a little bit, but everyone's gonna be noobs. Everyone, including eHeroes, everyone's gonna be noobs because they're not playing private servers. Maybe they're doing arenas, but they're not RBGing. I know that much. So little strats, like for example, I can share like on flag maps, everyone's used to fighting in mid now. Which, by the way, there's no bloodlust in them. There's no B-res, there's no B-res, no lay on hands. All the 10-minute CDs are now unusable that you can't use in arenas.
Wow.
So, and with teamfights being a lot slower, so the strat actually changes a bit in MoP. Now there's a lot more gauntlets and go into your base. So you split into offense, defense. It's more that playstyle. So that's already a huge game changer for everyone. So getting used to that, knowing who to send, like, for example, it's really good to send a Pally on offense because you want a solo heal offense. Everyone else can be CC'd, but they have 8 seconds immunity to CC with the bubble. So it's very good for offense. With Beacon and everything. So it's that noob learning, again, is what I'm looking forward to a lot.
That's super interesting you say that you have to split, like, because from my recollections, I mean, maybe the strats have changed, but from my recollection, we were doing full team fights during MOP as well. It's the same as it is kind of in CATA now, where you have the flag carrier behind your team in the middle, and you guys are kind of pushing towards each other's graveyards back and forth. You're saying it's not the same thing in MOP?
I recall a lot more splitting, actually.
Really?
I mean, they very well could be doing that, but yeah, I don't know why. I recall a lot more splitting, though. A lot more splitting.
Maybe you're
I'll have
right.
to get back to you on why that is, but I definitely recall that, yeah.
Yes. Well, I guess we'll see what happens in MOP. Again, like you said, everyone's going to be learning again, so that is going to be exciting to say the least. So.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah. I think that's not too bad, huh? For the first podcast kind of thing that put together.
Yeah, man. Have fun dissecting that. It's gonna take a bit of time.
It is going to take some time. But I am planning to take a few hours here and there and go through it. So.
Respect, man. I love the investment. Happy to support what you're doing. I like it. I enjoy the videos and the help that you're giving people. It's cool. I'd like to help too. Anytime you need me or something like that, if I can help, let me know.
I would love to have someone else that's experienced in RBGs in the same group. I would like to have groups in the future that are like 50-50. 50 people that are like really, really well experienced on alts. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter the comp. And just have a group of 50 people that are complete noobs, right? And just seeing how fast they improve. I think that would be quite interesting. Obviously, like
maybe if you instruct them. Yeah.
Obviously, these people would have to have at least put some effort into like at least getting some form of a arena experience, whether it's like 1.8K, whatever. At the very least that they know that class, so there's something we can work with.
Right.
But yeah. All right. In any case, thank you again, and
no worries.
I'll gonna work on this thing.
That was good, man. Want to go grab some tea anyway?
I like 100% of dicks.